The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning. Welcome to Morning Blend on this Monday, February 6th, 2023. I'm Dwight Strachan with Pamela Musgrove. We are having a very interesting morning here, as I'm sure many of you are. The widespread power outage in New Providence, and that's disrupted our operations, and we are just getting things back up and running. I think we're back on now on terrestrial radio. Yep, we're back on the tower, and we're just getting back up on online as well. Pamela, good morning. Say good morning to our listeners out there.
Good morning, Bahamas. Good morning, Dwight.
And we apologize, We apologize for the inconvenience, but this is quite a morning that we're having here after a lot of rain over the weekend. And this morning, lots of lightning last night and this morning, and BPL having a major outage here in New Providence. They issued a statement just a few minutes ago. I'll read the statement for you. Bahamas Power and Light is presently conducting checks following a system disturbance early Monday morning. The disturbance related to adverse weather conditions in the area resulted in a loss of generation to 2 units at the Clifton Pier Power Station and transmission network interruptions from Blue Hills Power Station. Both events resulted in the loss of electricity supply to more than half of the consumers in New Providence. More than half, as we could see driving around clearly. The statement says the crews have already been mobilized and are assessing the cause of the system disturbance to restart the 2 engines at Clifton Pier and re-energize the transmission lines out of the Blue Hills Power Station. BPL is working to commence restoration to the affected areas shortly.
Yeah, I saw the lightning, heard the thunder.
Yeah.
I imagine it was not going to be a good morning in terms of the weather.
Yeah.
And the rain. I think it started from Saturday.
Yes.
Saturday.
As predicted, a major cold front was expected to come in, and
See, that's
Sunday
what I don't
was
like.
really something
every
else.
time we talk about cold front, it's rain. I want to feel that cold without
Sometimes.
the rain. But
Sometimes.
most of the time,
No.
when we hear a cold front, we bring out your raincoats and your
galoshes.
boots. Yeah. But you know what I find? I find that many Bahamians don't have umbrellas.
Yeah, just thug it out and run.
That's interesting. Yeah,
I mean, you always lose them. They're always a
that's
hassle.
the problem. That's the problem. But you see people around, and like you say, you just try to thug it out.
Right.
You know, run under the shelter until the rain subsides.
Exactly. But we hope BPL can get it together. Of course, somebody pointed out to me, hey, look outside your window. Look in the northern sky. And I did last night while the Grammys were on.
Oh, the Grammys were on.
The Grammys were on, Pam. Man, I have never seen, I'm going to show you, I might post this. I've never seen lightning like this before.
Wow.
Ever. Just continuous, non-stop lightning. And there was a weather warning in effect for Grand Bahama and Abercrombie, Bimini, I believe. But this just didn't stop.
Oh, wow.
Though, that's a whole minute, and it just
wow.
continued like that.
Yes.
I'll post that a little bit later, I guess.
And that was around. I saw it probably like
9:30.
Maybe like 3 or so.
Continue straight through.
Yeah, because
You could hear the thunder
I was
this
awakened
morning.
by the thunder, and then
Right.
I could see the lightning, the light coming through the blinds.
It looks like a Marvel movie, like
Yeah.
Thor and the Marvel characters having a fight.
I
in
think
the
some people.
sky.
You could sell that, right?
Yeah,
You could sell that
I
for-
need to try to put my logo on this. This is good video.
Don't post it too soon.
Right.
then.
That's
Don't
what I'm
post it
thinking. I need
too soon.
to
You copyright
brand
that.
because that is amazing footage. I tell you, and then people will figure out where I live. I don't know that. Anyway, but yeah. So we have so much to talk about this morning, and it's unfortunate we didn't get our usual start. But let's see how much we can get through. Coming up, we're scheduled. We hope they can still come in our 8 o'clock hour scheduled to talk about the Butler Legacy Foundation. Franklyn Butler and Loretta Butler Turner are are teaming up for a podcast which will launch today. Now this sounds almost like competition for us, but anyway, but it's fine. They're good people. We're going to talk to them about what they hope to accomplish with this. And our power is: are we switching over to generator, or has everything collapsed? We're still on the air, right? Now everything just went off. So hopefully that means, because we've been on generator all morning, and hopefully, oh boy, we're sitting here in the dark. Okay, so maybe that means we're switching back over to power. One of those days.
Yep.
One of those days. Okay, so we didn't lose anything just now, right? No, everybody's still online and on the radio. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, bear with us, folks. But you're feeling it too, so. So maybe. In business last week, you heard the tourism minister announce that they are in talks to set up legislation that would allow for a management committee to run downtown Nassau.
Okay. They are in talks.
Well, they're setting up, they're drafting the legislation.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Right, at this
that's
point
what you
right
mean.
now,
They probably already
we
have
are
it outlined,
just
right?
in
They probably already
talks.
know.
No, I'm just saying, what is the timeline?
Well, I don't know,
You know?
but I mean, that's better than what we're doing right now, right?
Well, don't we have an organization for downtown now?
No.
The Downtown Partners.
Please. That's basically like a club. Might as well call
Is
it
that
Rotary.
in legislation?
The Downtown as a partnership? Well, they don't have any authority to do anything.
Yeah, but who formed them? Because, I mean, one thing I've noticed that they have been going on consistently, even though we changed administration. So that
They've been
must
a little
be.
quiet recently, but they
Yeah.
have in the past been very active.
No, I'm saying, like, normally what you have if a committee or an association is formed when one government is in or one party is in, when the next one comes, they either dismantle that or they add on something to that. But
Right.
that has been consistently meaning that is there something in legislation supporting that association?
I really can't say. I'm not too sure, but it hasn't made much of a difference.
But then why don't you use what you have
Which is
and
nothing.
strengthen it? Even if it's little, even if it doesn't make it doesn't matter, because see, to me, in talks mean we are at the beginning of this. And I question, when will we get to the point where we see something tangible downtown? So maybe use what you have.
Nothing.
You have nothing.
Nothing.
So we are just now in talks to get a management company to be
Drafting
responsible.
the legislation. Right. Drafting the legislation to allow for a management company to be responsible for downtown Nassau. All right. So, again, that's better than what we have. But today, as I said last week, I still do not think this is the way to go, because you will run yourself into a challenge just like what we see with the Port Authority, where folks are there and they're not answerable to the people. They have a contract, they do what they have to do, and as long as they please the government of the day, that'll be fine. And they might be great. They might be great. But when the administration changes, will they still be allowed to be there?
I think if it's implemented properly, it can work, because we had a management company, or probably still do have a management company for the airport.
Yeah.
So
But
it
that's
can
so
work.
different, though.
Yeah,
That's
but
so different.
It all depends on the legislation, Dwight. It all depends on what you put in legislation for this management company to do. I think if it's implemented properly, it can work. My concern is that we are just talking about it. So
Right.
to me, that will take a very long time to get anything up and running.
Well, here's the thing. In our discussion, in our 9 o'clock hour in business, we're going to be talking about the pros and the cons of what the government says they're about to do. And I will again say this isn't the best way to do this, and that we do need real local government. And again, in typical myopic Bahamian fashion, we're only focusing on downtown when every single part of this island needs a management agency to run it. But they should be elected officials, not MPs. Local government officials from the areas who are on the ground and know what's needed in the community and can be removed if they mess up and do not do the things that are required. Not appointed by who knows what because of whatever connection they have to somebody.
I
And
think
that
it's
it needs
just
to be in the hands of the Bahamian people.
And that's wonderful. But we all know, in order to get local government, we need the government's buy-in.
Do you want it? Do you want it?
But I don't. I'm not.
Wait.
I'm
That's
not
just a simple question. Do you want it?
local government.
Yeah.
I'm not for or against local
boy.
government. I am just for better management, and I think there are several ways we can achieve that. Right? It doesn't just have to be that one avenue. We can achieve it several ways, and the reason why, like you mentioned,
But why does it work in every other part of the world? Why is the Bahamas
Well, I'll get
so
to that.
special?
It's our culture.
No.
No, it's our
That's
culture,
not
Dwight.
acceptable. Our
It's-
culture
it's
right now
our
is shooting
culture.
people in the street.
Well, then it is what
But
it is,
we're
right?
gonna be stuck with this
Yeah.
forever.
I showed you. I think a week, last week or sometime, where the Prime Minister for Britain was fined because he took a selfie in the back seat of his car. He was being chauffeured and posted it on Instagram, and the police chief the police noticed that, and they fined him for sitting in a moving car without his seatbelt. Do you think something like that would ever happen in our country?
It could.
Culturally, it wouldn't.
I don't know. I mean, I think whoever
No.
the officer might get in trouble.
It wouldn't.
There'd be
We've
some
seen
challenges.
in recent times where there was conflict with the police and nothing came out of it. So I think it's a part of our culture.
See, but we
And
can't keep
until we
using
can
that as an
change-
excuse. We can't-
It's not an excuse.
It
It's a
is.
reality. And until we have the people in place that understand that and put in measures and mechanism to correct that, then we're going to continue having what we have. And so to
Isn't
say
this
local...
a good way to start that? To get people to understand you're responsible for this, not the MP, because not all the MPs are created equal. You are responsible for this part of this island. You are the one who we're going to hold responsible if something doesn't go right. This is a great way to change that culture.
Yeah, I think we could continue to have the conversation. I think having the conversation is good until sometime down the road somebody catches it and then they seek to implement. But I think we can also use the avenues that we have. And if you have a properly functioning management
won't
company,
those same people with the weird culture be in this management company? I mean, how can it be different there but not when it's...
well, see, when I look at the airport, we have a
Oh,
foreign
foreigners.
management
Oh, that's what
company,
you want. Okay,
right?
there you go.
I'm not saying that
No,
that's
that's
the only
exactly
avenue.
what y'all want.
No,
That's
right?
exactly
No,
what's gonna
I'm
happen.
saying to deal with
Y'all
our
can't
culture.
do it yourself because
No,
Bahamians are the most corrupt
no,
people in the world.
No.
And so
Don't
you got to
say
get a
that.
foreigner in here to
No.
run downtown Nassau.
Give it-
You said it, and I had
No.
the same argument last week with somebody. Y'all don't want it.
No,
So the
Dwight.
Bahamas is the most corrupt country in the
No,
world.
I'm not saying that. I'm
Clearly.
not saying that. I'm saying culturally. You know what culture is? You're doing something for so long, it becomes a part of you. Because our culture is like this. It looks as if we have right now a foreign company that is given a mandate, we can get better results than asking our own
Oh
to
my
set it
God.
up because we are so
But
influenced.
Can we get a foreign company to run the country? How about that?
Well, why don't you do a poll? Do a
Huh?
poll and see if their
Because
behavior
then
is-
what is the point? We can't do anything right then.
I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no.
saying that, but I'm just giving
So
you.
they shouldn't hire any Bahamians to work in the management company. It should all be
Yes,
foreigners.
yes,
What are they
I am
gonna do?
all
to clean the
for-
office?
No.
Clean the office, pick
Of
up the
course
trash.
not, Dwight. Of
Go
course
get
not.
the lunch.
I am
Get the
all
coffee.
for training. I'm just giving you the reality of
Clean
where
the
we are.
office.
And you just look.
Oh, my.
You just list all of the government agencies, and you rate them on a scale from 1 to 10, how they're managed.
So when the
And what would
private
you come up with?
management company says we're going to have a carnival dance-off downtown every Friday, what are we going to do? Just, oh well.
See, and also with the
Mm-hmm.
private companies, if they're not doing their job, it's easy for the government to fire them.
Is it?
Yeah, it's easier for the government to fire the private management company than to fire somebody or a group that you put in office.
Not really.
Or
Not
you put
really.
in there. It's easier.
What was proposed for the new local government in New Providence was to have recalls. Recalls. If the council members, if the mayor is doing foolishness, can't account for the money, can't ever tell you why they're doing anything, you can recall. Get the petition, recall. Can you do that with your MPs?
Dwight, you sat on a committee during the last administration
Yeah.
that was supposed to bring
No, we did what we were supposed to do. But
research
you know what
to
happened?
bring information
Oh, yes.
for local government.
Yes. And you know why it
Legislation.
didn't happen, Pam? Because of you, Bahamian people.
Me?
Yeah, because when we did it, nobody other than the members of that committee got up and said, hey, government, we want this. We believe we can do this. we can change our destiny. We want to see. They didn't even table it until they were about to get kicked out of office. But nobody read it. Nobody looked at it. Nobody said, no consultation, no debate. Like, this doesn't make sense. This makes sense. I like it. We need this for all the family islands. Nothing like that. Nobody, oh, well, didn't they have that? That's the end of the story.
Right.
Because the Bahamian people do not believe that we can do this.
No, place to blame where it's supposed to be, Dwight.
Yeah, of course. It was
the government commissioned it, and there were
Yeah, but
persons
you just said
that were part of the cabinet that were against it.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Do the members of the public want it?
Yeah, we
Who cares?
It doesn't
if
matter
they
what
don't
we want.
Yes, it does.
People every
Where
day-
are we? North Korea?
No.
It does matter what you want. If that's what you want.
In the eyes of the government, it doesn't. Every day
no.
on these talk shows, people are calling in. People are giving their views.
And they changed some things.
You are frustrated.
Look at the church. The church got them to delay the marital rape thing. I mean, because that's what they wanted. They will listen to people.
See,
they will listen to people.
It's about culture. We are patriarchal society.
we're doomed.
Society. And so that's why that is happening.
This is very sad. But we're going to talk about this at our 9 o'clock hour. So if you're interested in what we're saying, join us for that. The pros and cons. We're going to have Matt Aubrey from Org Bahamas. Matt was also on that committee. But we're going to talk about the pros. Why are you laughing at that? People who waste their time. That's what it is.
You didn't waste your time.
Time-wasting clowns.
You tried. You tried. And hopefully maybe 20 years down the road, they will
20.
dust off that document
You'll be
and
disintegrated
talk
by then.
about.
Oh, dear Lord.
They will talk about implementing legislation 20 years from now.
Management committee. You know it'll be a foreign group. You know it will be.
And
They'll
maybe-
be, oh, yes, we managed Beirut. I don't know.
Maybe
We
during
managed-
this season, it's for the better.
Oh, this
Maybe
is
during the
so
season,
sad.
and seasons change. Maybe for this during this season, it's for the better.
Well, I hope. Oh my God. Well, what are we good for? What can we do? What can we do right here?
I think we can do
Because
lots of
people
things
complain
right.
about the Junkanoo parade. They had the long gaps and all the issues going on there. They complain about the hot.
Okay, let's pause right there. Let's pause right there. See, this is my challenge. People are complaining about the Junkanoo parade and the long gaps, and they've been complaining about that forever. Has anything changed? Is there anything different?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're complaining about something, the organizers go back to the drawing board if they value the comments that are being made. And they go back to the drawing board and they say, okay, people are complaining about this. Let's do this. Let's do that to change it. No, it's the same thing over and over.
Yeah. But you know what? I can again go back and say local government, because who is ultimately responsible for any of this? Right? We're just allowing people in little groups and little committees to do whatever they want. There is no coordination.
Because there are no consequences for their actions. They can't do that and get away with it. But at least if you have a private company and they're not doing the right thing, you can fire them and get another
You can do the same thing with elected officials. You can do the same thing with elected officials. And they have to prove
But
something.
until we
Because
get to that
election is
point-
coming up. We can get there tomorrow.
Yeah, until we
Elections
get
are
to that
coming
point,
up.
though.
I got to prove. I have to show that I did this because I
agree.
won't get a second term. I won't get to finish
Okay,
my... Right?
Right now, what do we have now? What do we have now?
Yeah. But,
Every
you know,
term, we are moving the administration
And
because
this-
we are not satisfied
Yes,
with what they're producing.
Absolutely. And again, that's unfair, but that's central. I mean,
But you would
it's-
think-
But it's central government, which has many, many issues,
Right.
and right now trying to do too many things.
Right.
If they got some of that stuff off their plate and handed it to a group that was responsible for only this amount of things there and a more manageable amount of things to do, or a number, whatever, it could be a very different story.
It could be.
It really could.
It could be if
And again,
central
we have
government wants
and
to
you
do it.
have to say that you want it. Central
Yeah.
government is going to do it if the outcry from the public is great enough for it. But you have to have faith in yourselves,
Right.
Bahamian.
Don't put it on us twice.
Yes, you have to.
No, you remind me.
Why is every city in the world?
You
why
remind me.
Why is there a manager for every city in the world, an elected official? Why? Why is Nassau so different? Why is Freeport so different? What's going on in the Bahamas?
You remind me of an old boss who, when persons came late, rather than going to those persons who choose to be late consistently, they would make general comments to all staff.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
No.
So then you know what happens? the person who's coming on time, wait, you're not talking to me. And the person who is coming late, well, you can't be talking to me either.
I mean, that's a great example, Pat, but that doesn't fit here.
Because you would have told me if that was the case. What I'm saying, right, you want to blame the people, right? During the last administration, Dr. Minnis and the F&M got 90,000+ votes.
Yeah, and they lied to us.
Well, see,
They lied
their
to us.
agenda was a long list of things. But if
But here's the
80%
thing.
of those things were implemented, that would have been a lot.
The minister at the time, Renwood Wells, when he said, I looked at it, I looked at the proposal, and if you go by this, the mayor's going to have more power than the MPs.
Okay.
Everybody laughed
Culturally-
along with him. People should have
everybody
said,
didn't laugh.
hey, minister, you're talking garbage. That's a dumb thing to say. The mayor of New York City gets many more votes than any House representative for that state. So that doesn't make any sense what you're talking about. And it doesn't diminish the work of the House members or the senators. So what is your point?
Put the blame where the blame ought to be, not on the Bahamian people. And all we have at the end of the day, when we go to the polls, all we really have is two major parties. And so Bahamians in their power feel, okay, if you are doing stuff where you obviously look as if you don't regard the views of the Bahamian people, we just have to move you. Okay. We cannot consent to what you're doing. If we keep you in there, and it's telling you that we are okay. So until we get a grouping of people who are listening to the Bahamian people and are implementing policies that will better the lives of the majority, or if not all of the Bahamian people, we're going to continue to move you until we get it right.
Yeah.
And I support that 100%.
Yeah. Well, okay, we got a lot of text messages. We have so many things to talk about and I don't know how we're going to do this morning. Big time shanty towns.
And look at that, shantytown again. Again, why can't we deal with that problem?
Well, get the
In
foreigner
small
here to deal
New
with it.
Providence.
Let's get a foreign committee.
21 by
management
7.
committee.
Why can we not deal with shantytown?
Well, the government
It's
is
culturally
seeking court approval for shantytown.
seeking court approval, Dwight. You see these words that you call it this one. They're talking about it, seeking.
And speaking of things that will frustrate you, I don't even know who wasted their time with this nonsense. A poll for who should be the next governor general.
That's fine. That's okay.
Absolute nonsense. I mean, the irony of a poll for the governor general. Jokey, but also,
is that an official poll
cares?
But no, I think a lot of people care. Is
Why?
That an
Why do you
poll?
care?
Yeah, is that
What
an
a waste
official
of time.
poll commissioned by the government?
No, of course.
Of course,
Why would they do that?
So people are just putting information out there, trying to get
absolute
people's
nonsense.
views.
Oh my God.
That's a form of hearing from the
when
public.
does that influence anything that happens here?
No, but
it's a puppet position.
Yeah, but
and when are we going to
polls
get over this?
Polls are to gather information.
Have a poll on whether we should become a republic. How about that? Nonsense. Anyway.
It wouldn't matter because if the
That's
polls
true.
say
It
yes,
wouldn't matter
it wouldn't
then.
matter.
But if the foreign management company said, Okay. Let's get to the text messages. Yes, a lot of people concerned about what was going on this morning. Most of it beyond our control. The power outages were taking a major toll this morning. We apologize again. Good luck with local government. They have it in the different keys in Abaco now. They don't. They don't have it the way that it's needed. They have something, but it's not what was proposed by the committee, which would have expanded local government.
Did the government even read your report?
I don't know.
See, there
but
you
they
go.
finally tabled it when they were, right before the election. So it was never put out there for consultation by the public.
Do committee members have access to that report?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you release it?
I have to people. I sent you. Didn't I say?
No, I'm not talking about that.
Not
Why
to
don't you release it to org, and why don't you put it on some website? Why don't you even commission or have some town meetings about the report?
We should.
See, that's how you, Dwight, and your team
We'll work on that.
can get the ball going.
Let's do that. That's a good idea. We'll do that, Pam. All right. They have it in the Family Islands. There's been a few places they've rejected, and the people are doing them. No government officials in Nassau and got them approved that way. I don't know what to say. Okay, they're causing such issues and make you feel what's the point if you're trying to do right by your island people that don't live there can override you. Yeah, that's bad local government. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Right? This person says here, please tell Pam to stop talking foolishness. This is why we cannot be better. Now, what do you mean about the cultural part?
Probably the
Foreigners and culture, Pam. Yeah, that's what we should do. They should put a foreign committee. Get the Rose Parade people to come run Junkanoo. Since y'all like
I
foreign
don't believe foreign is
management
better.
committees,
I do not believe.
get the Rose Parade to run the Junkanoo Parade. Yeah.
I do not believe foreign is better. I work for a company that hire Bahamians. And we do utilize the foreign component, and that's via technology and other technical stuff. But I believe in Bahamians. I'm just saying culturally, because we don't seem to be good, and I'm using government corporations. Well, let me not call the name, sorry. Just the list of government corporations that are not functioning properly.
It's so because of central government, and that is right, a cultural thing, absolutely, because your MP can put you in there.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Dwight.
but this is not what we're talking about there. This would be something very different. You have a specific set of tasks that you have to accomplish.
You have a downtown partners association.
No, that's not.
For whatever reason, it's not working. Because
it
again, they have no
power.
teeth.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's by design.
Yeah, but again, you're gonna have the same issue, Pam. People who live in Lifer Key, in Albany, gonna be trying to figure out what to do down there. Will the people who live in the area have any say? That's not the way it's supposed to be at all. Not the way it's supposed to be. Outsiders, because they have a business down there, are gonna have all the say in what happens in the area. Is that fair? But that's the way we like it. That's how the country's been running for hundreds of years, right? The rich elite are running the show, and the little man is there to sweep up all the messes.
No, that's not what it's
exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Let's go to the news. Are we going to the news? Do we have news today? We're such a crazy day today. Again, we appreciate your patience with us while we sort out the wreck of this power outage. Here we go to the news. Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-4796. Standard text rate supply. And now at 8:19, time for a check of weather for today, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. We've got a severe weather warning in effect. That is weather warning for Cat Island and the Exuma Keys. And we've got a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Great Exuma, San Salvador, and Rum Key. According to the Department of Meteorology, as of 7:30 a.m., the lightning detector and satellite imagery depicting concentrated lines of heavy showers and embedded thunderstorms moving southeastwards towards and across those warning and watch areas. And that system, of course, associated with the cold front that is moving across the islands. Thunderstorms expected to be heavy to severe at times, causing strong, damaging winds, dangerous lightning, heavy downpours, hail, and possible waterspout or tornado activity. Localized flooding is also possible during these storms. Boaters in the warning area should seek safe harbor, and residents should stay indoors and away from windows. This weather warning in effect until 10 a.m. this morning. So a severe weather warning in effect for Cat Island and Exuma Keys, and a thunderstorm watch in effect for Great Exuma, San Salvador, and Rum Key. So this is all as a result of the cold front that's moving over the area. As we said, showers and thunderstorms associated with the frontal boundary will continue and will move southeastwards across the northwest Bahamas today and enter the Central Islands by later today, late this afternoon or early evening. For the northwest and central Bahamas, partly cloudy to cloudy and warm with widely scattered showers and thunderstorms, heavy to severe at times, along and ahead of the frontal boundary, becoming partly cloudy and breezy in the northwest Bahamas tonight. Small craft advisory in effect. Winds light and variable, becoming northeast to east at 10 to 15 knots behind the front in the northwest Bahamas and southeasterly at 10 to 15 in the Central Islands, falling light and variable this afternoon. Seas 2 to 4 feet, but building to 7 to 9 feet in the north and northeasterly swells. For the southeast Bahamas, partly sunny and warm with isolated showers, becoming partly cloudy to cloudy with isolated showers and thunderstorms tonight. Small craft advisory in effect. Wind southeasterly at 10 to 15 knots, falling light and variable at times tonight. Seas 2 to 4 feet, but building to 6 to 8 feet in northeasterly swells. Temperatures getting up to around 82 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 66 Fahrenheit, 19 Celsius. In your extended outlook, that frontal boundary will continue moving southeastward through the central Bahamas and will become stationary in the southeastern islands, while high pressure will build in the northwest. So for Tuesday, tomorrow, partly sunny and breezy in the northwest Bahamas, cloudy to overcast and windy in the southeast and central islands with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. Wednesday, sunny and breezy in the northwestern islands, partly cloudy to cloudy and windy with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms in the central and southeast Bahamas. That's your morning blend weather check, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. Visit firstonlineinsurance.com and select a Bahamas First agent to purchase, pay, or renew your car or home insurance 100% online, or just stop by any Bahamas First agent. Bahamas being 40 years as the first Bahamian general insurance company. What's first for you comes first for us. And time for your first look at traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. RBC's mortgage specialists can provide helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. Some of the streets are wet this morning, folks, so keep that in mind as you make your way across New Providence. In your real-time traffic this morning, heavy traffic, as usual, on Butler Highway from well south of the Fire Trail roundabout all the way up to the Tawny-Williams-Darling Highway roundabout. Traffic is backed up along Fire Trail eastbound as well, and westbound on Tawny-Williams-Darling Highway at this hour. Glaston Road busy for you just north of Fire Trail in the northbound lanes there, heading to JFK Drive. Coral Harbor Road, heavy traffic westbound to Carmichael Road to Coral Harbor Road. And Blue Hill Road also busy for you near Soldier Road, and as you get over the hill to Independence Drive backed up in both directions, but especially eastbound this morning. And Eastern Road, a long line there from about San Souci straight up to Johnson Road. And Shirley looking busy for you between Village and Mackey Street. Also got West Bay Street near Saunders Beach as you approach the roundabout with New Providence Highway. You're going to be seeing that heavy eastbound traffic there heading into Arawak Key and just east of Arawak Key on West Bay Street as you approach downtown. Near Nassau Street, also congestion there. Those are your hot spots. That's your real-time traffic and your morning blend traffic alert brought to you by RBC. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist.
Are you ready to break up with your car? Easy Car Sales invites you to fall in love with an electric vehicle. Ditch the gas pump, the expensive mechanics. Feel the freedom, the power. Visit easy242.com and make a date to test drive an electric vehicle today. Get into a better relationship. Find your perfect match at Easy Car Sales and drive electric happily ever after.
Sarah, how are you doing?
Okay.
Are you sure? I noticed you've been down lately.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I can't really put into words how I'm feeling, but I know I don't feel like myself sometimes. There's just so much going on in my life. School, friends, sports. Sometimes I worry about different things and feel stressed.
I'm glad you're talking to me. And it's okay to talk about your feeling. It's normal to feel changes depending upon what's going on around you.
Yeah?
Of course. All of us should be concerned with our mental health and our well-being. Good mental health means that we can cope with our everyday stresses. You can talk to me anytime when you feel like it.
Okay. Make sure that these check and talks more often and take things from there.
Message is brought to you by PAHO WHO and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Florida Auto Parts can deliver all the auto parts your car will ever need, direct from the USA and from around the world. Florida Auto Parts provides fast delivery on auto parts, and we ship throughout the Bahamas, genuine or aftermarket, new or used, and all for the best price. Call Florida Auto Parts Trusted Parts Rep on WhatsApp at 1-786-772-8777 to save on your next auto parts purchase. Florida Auto Parts, the right parts at the right price.
Whether your business is in-store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
Technology serves to make our lives better, so why not your business too? At Custom Computers, we've been maintaining our knowledge and relationships with top tech companies since 1987 and carry only the most trusted brands like Apple, Microsoft, HP, and more. No company has helped more businesses build reliable IT systems than Custom Computers. You name it, we've done it. Call 396-1101 to talk to any of our business experts. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
Legacy College Readiness and Tours. Already get the first set of knowledge. Now it's time to prepare you for college. You're thinking so much you gotta do. Legacy will handle that for you.
Looking for a college connection that's thorough, supportive, and proactive? Get on board with Legacy College Readiness and Tours today. My name is Whitley Cargill. I am a student who benefited from Legacy College Readiness and Tours. Erica Morris, the president of Legacy College Readiness and Tours, ensures that you have a great ride through a program. You will receive unprecedented access to college information, college campuses, and college advisement based on where you want to go and what you're looking for. Expand your knowledge and your experience. It's tailored to you. Look forward to Legacy College Readiness and Tours. Get on board today. Contact us at 242-809-5278 or email us at legacycollegetours@gmail.com today.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
It's bad o'clock, yeah, it's thick. dirty. I've been through a lot, but I'm still flirty. Is everybody back up in the building? It's been a minute, tell me how you're healing. Cause I'm about to get into my feelings. How you feeling? How you feel right now? Oh, I've been so down and under pressure. I'm way too fine to be distressed. Oh, I'm not the girl I was or used to be. I might be better. Turn up the music, turn down the lights.
Welcome back to Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Song, Record of the Year, Pam. That's the Record of the Year from the Grammys. Yeah, you don't like Lizzo? Okay, Pam. Anyway, Dwight Strachan with Pam the Musgrove. Pam is having me on the verge of tears in here, folks, because I'm asking her if we feel we can't get our elected officials to do what we want, if we feel that we want accountability, local government, whatever it is, but they don't want that, I mean, so what is the point? What are we here to do? We're just here at the king's whim. Is that what it is? Whatever. That's what it is? Whatever. You have no say. This is like North Korea. We are in Pyongyang. Is that what's happening here?
No. We're not like North.
It sounds like it is. You can't. These 39 folks, they don't feel comfortable with local government, so because they won't have the people will look to the mayors more, and so they won't agree to enacting the legislation to allow for empowered local government. And so what? We're supposed to sit back and say, oh, well.
See,
no,
the
that's
challenge
insane.
is not just these 39 folks. It was the 39 folks prior to.
Okay.
And then the 39
and
folks
so
prior
what?
to. Right?
So what? Do you want it? Do you want it?
Like I told you, for me, I'm indifferent.
Oh.
I just want the city to.
Yeah.
Now, if we can get that via local government, fine.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get that by other means, fine.
No, don't say
I
that.
want the city
It's
to
gotta
be
be the
managed better.
It's got to be, we don't need companies to be in charge of cities. Again, Freeport. Look at Freeport. That's what happens when a company runs a city. You need local officials, local people who live in the area
Freeport was
with a
done
vision.
way before our time. And I think all of these things can be addressed via legislation.
Yeah, like enacting local government.
Yeah. All these things can be addressed. And in the legislation, it will tell you the powers, who hold the powers. And most of our legislation, it's up to the minister. It's up to the minister.
You feel happy about that? That makes you feel good saying that?
Not necessarily. No, I don't. But then it is the way we do things around here.
Yeah, and that's gotten us where?
And if it's to change.
What's your favorite city in the world? What's your favorite city in the world? Yeah. I want to hear this. What's your favorite city in the world? Give me your top 3 favorite cities. I know it's going to be fancy ones.
No, why you say
London. London's one. I knew it. Paris. You like Paris?
I've never been
okay.
to Paris.
You like New York?
New York.
Yeah, see, too.
And where did I went to, I think it was Geneva. No, not Geneva. It was somewhere in Switzerland. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was a nice city.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Run
exactly.
well, managed well,
Yeah.
everything functioning, public transportation, everything clean. Yeah, lots of things to do. They have
And we want that.
And every time you go back, it's something new to see, right?
Yeah, we want that though.
We want that.
We
And
want that
We won't
here.
have it the way we do it now.
We won't have it here.
Yeah. And if you do a company, they'll likely only be tasked with managing 2 streets.
No, not necessarily.
Then how big is
It's
it gonna
about
get?
the legislation.
Yeah, right. But more than likely, it'll be because then what's the point of the whole? What are you going to do? Not the whole island. What's that all about? Why would this company be doing this? Have a say. I don't like what you did there. We need to get this person out of here. And you don't have a say.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, so we know in order for local government to come about, it will take Parliament to do that, right? So Parliament, successive administrations don't seem to be keen on having local government.
There's really no public outcry. They don't really.
No, stop putting the blame on the people, Dwight, where it is.
If the public wanted it, they'd be,
I disagree. I disagree. I think there are a lot of people who just want things to be done better, and however that's achieved. It won't
be with those guys.
If the government is saying, okay, we understand too that the city needs to be managed better, and if they get a company that can manage it better, will you be happy about that?
No. I mean, that's better than what we have now, right?
But would you be happy if they achieve whatever you wanted to achieve?
For trouble. You're looking for trouble. This is going to be problematic. And again, it'll either be two things. We're only focused on that little area, and the rest of us and the rest of New Providence will still be looking the way we are. Or it'll become so big, and it'll be run by, whatever City Management Inc. And then you're like working for this faceless, nameless, giant corporation that doesn't care about anything because they are a company. They don't live there. And you're looking for trouble. You're looking for trouble. Put this in the hands of elected officials, not MPs, but people who live in the area. And
maybe down the road, we'll get that. I believe little by little progress can be achieved, and I believe start wherever we can start to make the changes that we need to make, and hopefully down the road, several generations down, they will see the importance of it and implement it.
Even if you let the local government people hire a management team for a certain stretch of the area they're responsible for, that would make more sense than what we're talking about doing. Even that would make more sense, because then you still have somebody who's accountable to you, right? Because which MP are you going to blame here if it goes wrong? You're looking for trouble. You're looking for trouble, and all those wonderful cities that you have, I guarantee if we got the mayors of those cities on, they would laugh. They're like, well,
but you know what happened? The legislation support it, though. The legislation support whatever they are doing. We can't even get to the point of getting the legislation in place.
Yeah.
That's the problem that we have.
All right, coming up in just a couple minutes, we're going to be talking with the Butler Legacy Foundation. They've got today a big special launch coming up. We'll get to them in a bit. But let's take these calls really quickly. I want to read a couple of your text messages very, very quickly. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Dwight, how are you?
Doing well.
Madam Palm, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good morning.
Yes, I want to say congratulations to you and your husband on your accomplishment. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I want to say congratulations to you.
Right.
Thank you.
What's this? Well, I don't even know what you're talking about. What? The past.
That's in-house. That's in-house, Dwight.
Well, why would you bring it up on the air?
Well, I think she was. I was not there, but she know what I'm talking about. Yes. Okay. I want to get to the issue of Madam Palm and talking about managing, and I totally agree with her in terms of managing. But I want to ask her this question. How do we get excellent from one who never managed a candy kitchen? We're talking about selling candies now, and give a report at the end of the year with excellence. How can we get that happen? We electing persons who never managed a candy kitchen or even pay their bills on time, or manage their homes, manage their children, manage their wife, manage their husband, but we still will expect excellence. Tell me, how can that be? I'll hang up and listen.
All right. And that's another case for local government, right? Where you are the city, you're the mayor of this city, you became the governor of this state or whatever it is.
You have a track record.
And now, you might be good running the country. But we don't have that here. You jump from kindergarten straight to practically. All right. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Morning, Dwight. Morning, Pam.
Hi.
Good morning.
I must say it has been truly a thrill to hear both of your commentary this morning regarding, how we plan to move, or perhaps hope to plan to move this country forward in not just prosperity, but productivity. And Dwight, as you so rightfully state about this mayor and all that stuff, I too buy into that concept. Our problem is that with these politicians who have held the seat of power and have absolute power, it seems, over our national affairs, it's going to be kind of difficult to wrestle from my vantage point, wrestle this concept, wrestle that from these politicians, because You're talking about diversifying the power factor from them. You need a council to just govern Nassau proper, and even if it means several councils to divide this island, east, west, north, south, and central, and then to give them the power, to the councils the power, like we see in Miami-Dade, for instance, in Florida. They have mayors, they have councils, and all it is basically is just to complement whatever the government is doing, but doing it more on a street level than a what you call an executive level. And that's all it basically is. But these guys are not going to give a power willingly like that. And I guess, in a sense, in closing, if we, the people, so desire such councils, then we should begin to really rally the troops now and make noise about this, because right now, Nassau, in essence, is really a dump. Right now, we're not operating efficiently in the manner that many of us would hope that it would. But again, if we can't get these guys to release the power, who know about these things to get into office, to do some of the things that we really need to do, then we're going to be stuck exactly where we are. Thanks for taking my call this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure it'll be challenging for them, but if this is what you want, you've got to say it. Let's read these messages before we have to take a break. This person says here, I'm with Pam. We need to, this is not what you meant, though. We need to get some white people up in here to run this country.
That person is being sarcastic. I think they are being sarcastic. And I never said that. I never said that.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they're Bahamians and they have the plans, it doesn't matter the color. But a company of people appointed or put in a position. This person says here, tell your co-hosts about this is the rally that we saw. Tell that back in the day, Officer Arrington Bumpy booked the Prime Minister. What? Huh? Okay, I don't know. What I think of something else. Anyway,
we weren't even talking about that.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
but anyway. Why is the airport so often held up as this paragon of worthiness of foreign management? The truth is, it is poorly managed still. Baggage belt failures with heavy traffic, customers having to drag all luggage to one end of the terminal, broken chair backs facing customers, bad interpersonal service from the employees. I can go on. Okay. Well, there will always be challenges, folks. Mm-hmm. There will always be challenges. This person says here, I don't know what that means. Get a Bahamian management group and monitor them well. If the angle of local government is the option, then give them the teeth they need and the budget to make the plans happen. You might as well, since you're in the same position of drafting legislation, just go right there. Mm-hmm. Start right now. Let's do it. This message here. I support none other than Loftus Roker for Gigi. This again, Gigi. Okay. Listening to Pam, there is no wonder colonialism lasted so long. Don't do Pam like that.
No, I'm free to give my opinions on how I see things, and they're free to give their opinion on how they see things. Mm-hmm.
See, now this is where they can't take sarcasm. This person says, I think you're onto something with the Rose Parade thing. Every year, Junkanoo is a mess, so clearly we can't run it right. Yikes! That was not to be taken seriously. I was just saying, if we talk about we have problems running things, well then bring somebody in from places to run everything.
There are so many examples, Dwight, in our country of things that are not working, and we seem paralyzed to fix it. Mm-hmm. There's so many examples. We're talking now about the head article is the shantytown, right? There was an injunction. The court said that a home cannot be demolished unless the government came before the court. Mm-hmm. How many times has the government went before the court?
Clearly very few.
See, there's so many things that just not working, and I think sometimes we tend to want to bury our heads in the sand and not address it, not deal with it. But that's, in order of our problems, we have to act. Whatever it takes to act, let's act to fix some of the problems that we have, and not continue to ignore them and continue to act as if they don't exist. Mm. And if it means calling us out for what we do, that is not proper or right, then let's do it. That's the only way we'll be better.
One of our mutual friends is saying that you mean Zurich. Is that the Swiss city that you liked?
It may have been.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yes.
See?
Yes.
I know you
yes.
well. Okay. All right. Bet you they have a really great mayor. We're going to pick this up in our 9 o'clock hour. But when we come back, we're talking about the Butler Legacy Foundation and the new podcast. We're going to get into that with Franklyn Butler and Loretta Butler Turner in just a bit. Stay with us.
So used to be. Try might be better. Turn up the music. Turn down the lights. I got a feeling I'm gonna be alright. Okay, alright. It's about damn time.
At Doctors Hospital, our lamp just got brighter. The Loyalty Advantage membership program now has 3 unique plans to choose from. From Lamp Prepaid with free prime care visits and service line discounts, Lamp Insured with copay waivers and 0 upfront collections at the ER and inpatient services, or our new Lamp Access, a free plan of lab, pharmacy, and imaging. Lamp has a plan for everyone. To sign up, visit our website or give us a call. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now.
Whether you're looking for your first or new home, or even using your existing home as equity, RBC understands that your journey to home ownership is unique, and your mortgage financing should reflect that. That is why at RBC we have dedicated mortgage specialists that provide sound advice and helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. Best of all, the RBC mortgage team is mobile, flexible, and will meet you almost anywhere. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist.
Technology serves to make our lives better, so why not your business too? At Custom Computers, we've been maintaining our knowledge and relationships with top tech companies since 1987 and carry only the most trusted brands like Apple, Microsoft, HP, and more. No company has helped more businesses build reliable IT systems than Custom Computers. You name it, we've done it. Call 396-1101 to talk to any of our business experts. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
Ready to save? You can put 100 File Savings Express Plan and make sure your money keeps growing. Earn interest on your savings while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit cfal.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
This could be your golden opportunity. The Bahamas Agricultural and Industrial Corporation has the commercial real estate you need for your dream touristic, manufacturing, or agricultural investment. Build that Airbnb, grow that farm, or manufacture that product. BAIC has the land to empower you to grow. To learn more, visit baic.gov.bs or contact us at 396-3725 or 6.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Holding me back, gravity's holding me back. I want you to hold out the palm of your hand. Why don't we leave it at that? Nothing to say when everything gets in the way. Seems you cannot be replaced, and I'm the one who'll stay. Oh, in this world, it's just us. You know it's not the same as it was. In this world, it's just us.
We're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Pamela Musgrove. We're a little off schedule because of the challenges with the power outages this morning, but we're trying to get back on track. And our guest this morning, very pleased to welcome from the Butler Legacy Foundation, Loretta Butler Turner and Franklyn Butler. Good morning. Great to have you with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dwight. Morning, Bahamas.
Good morning. It is such a pleasure. Good talking with you all. All right, so you've got a big morning. You've got a legacy podcast. We'll find out more about that in a bit. But tell us about the Butler Foundation, the Butler Legacy Foundation. What is it all about, and how did it get started?
Great. So, Dwight, I'll take that. So, the Butler Legacy Foundation is really the Butler family's structure to make sure that we do all we can to preserve the stories, the history, and the legacy of Sumilo, of Lady Caroline. And so what we wanted to do is, given it's the 50th year of independence, we thought it was extremely important to make sure that we not just did a podcast, but to really try to see how we can create an institution that focuses on preserving the life and legacy of Sumilo and his wife, Lady Caroline. And so while we've started with the podcast, our hope is really to engaging in schools. Our hope is to continue to raise money to look at potential scholarships down the road. We also have some big and noble ideas around partnering with the University of Bahamas for a School of Government, Politics, and Ethics, the Sumilo Butler School. And so we're really working to see how we develop an institution that is able to preserve, so many of the wonderful stories that will be captured in the podcast, but to make sure that we bring those relevant through making sure we continue to engage in the same community that Sumilo would have really helped to uplift so many Bahamians with. So that's our focus for the Butler Legacy Foundation.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. So what do you think from what you've done so far, especially with the younger Bahamians? Do they seem to know much at all at this point?
So the answer, I would say, is broadly no. We did a live screening. It was interesting to see that we had quite a few persons who were very candid to say, listen, I know Sumilo because I'm familiar with having, a book, the everybody, for me anyway, used to mark up on and put horns on, right? That's kind of how I remember it. But beyond that, I'm not sure they understand, the real fight, the real struggles that he kind of guided this country through. Before even Governor General and before even joining the PLP, he was really engaged with the common man and really developing a network that allowed him to really influence people, but also to act as an agent for so many people, which eventually, I think, led to his entrepreneurial and political aspirations. But so that's what we find is very interesting. And this podcast is intended to not only tell stories, but to really draw back or to draw out the conclusions to make sure that this generation understands that, this story is still very relevant in modern times.
And Loretta Butler Turner, why do you think we as a people don't do the best job with telling our stories, with writing it down, recording it so that people for generations will know about what has happened in the past and led us to where we are?
Good morning, Pam. Good morning, Bahamas. I think one of the biggest challenges we've had, is that people have not actually taken the initiative to actually write their biographies or their autobiographies. And so, there is a void in our libraries. There's a void in our schools. There's this huge void. But here we are now in the 21st century where information is disseminated so much differently and on so many platforms, just like we're here on radio with you this morning. I believe that by embracing technology, we're going to be able to actually tell this story, not just through our eyes, but through the eyes of individuals who have interacted with Sumilo over decades, persons who've actually been there, seen it, were there in person. This is so exciting because I believe that, using YouTube, using all the social media platforms, Spotify, and of course, any media outlet, this is going to make it easier for people to be able to embrace the opportunity to tell their stories. It's just a matter of recording now. I think people were hesitant at first to sit down and actually write because we're very oral as a society, I think.
Yeah. All right. So for folks who don't know, let's clear it up on the connection and between the two of you and to Sumilo. Explain it for us.
Well, Franklyn and I are the grandchildren of Sumilo and Lady Caroline Butler. Both of his father and my father are their sons. Sumilo my father, George and Francis Butler, we would consider them Generation Zero. Sir Milo and Lady Caroline would be Generation One. So for us, we are Generation Three. Our businesses, everything that Sir Milo has actually accomplished is now moving into the fifth generation. And that's why we wanted to share this. So as third generation heirs and successors to the story of Sir Milo and Lady Caroline, we want to be able to make sure that the fourth generation, the fifth generation, and successive generations understand the importance and the legacy of this great man and this great woman, and also to be able to share that story with Bahamians everywhere so that they can be motivated to perhaps creating sustainable family businesses and to create their own legacies, really.
So will the podcast format be a historical overview of Sir Milo's legacy, and how would you tie that back to something?
Well, I got to tell you, first thing I'd like to do is invite you to go to our podcast this morning, which went live at 8 a.m. this morning. Share it, watch it. It answers a lot of your questions. Each podcast is going to definitely tell that story. Each podcast is going to encourage other people about, how to sustain businesses, how to sustain family businesses, Black family businesses in particular. And basically, the struggles, the adversity, the triumphs, the successes, we're going to articulate those along the way.
All right. So in doing this and setting up the foundation, have there been any revelations for the two of you? Surprises that you didn't know about Sir Milo?
I'm going to let Franklyn answer.
Yeah.
Listen, Dwight, I would say to you, for me, I've never met Sir Milo. I am of the generation where I was born after Sir Milo. So what is interesting about this story, as I said on Thursday night of the launch, is oftentimes in our family, and as you need, not knowing him is almost a bit of a weapon, because, you don't know nothing. How dare you say this or do that? But what has been very interesting is just listening to the first episode that features the Honorable Loftus Roca and Latre Raming from the Office of the Prime Minister. It has been incredible just to hear the stories that people like the Honorable Loftus Roca has shared. Whether it was, the story of Sir Milo throwing out the hourglass in the House of Assembly and his motive, and really understanding, the relationship between him and Sir Lyndon. To me, it's been an incredible learning experience, and and as I've gone through recording some of the other podcasts as well, episodes of the podcast, I must tell you, it's a real education. I think if you get a chance to listen today, I think you yourself will be totally amazed by the level of storytelling and how real the whole experience is as people like Honorable Loftus Roca and the Trey Raming kind of tell their story.
When studying your grandfather's life, what would you say is his greatest legacy?
Boy, I would say that for me, and I would only say this, the biggest legacy I took from the first podcast, I would say, because I think each episode it usually is a little bit of a different nugget. But for me, it's this whole idea of perseverance. And as we think about our challenges in our society, right? I think, one of the things that we discussed in the first episode is this idea that after independence, we almost get a sense that we've arrived and all the things in our country should be sorted out because now we're independent and we're free. The reality is the struggle continues, and we have to continue to figure out what that cause is and to make sure that we are prepared to recognize that each of us has to continue to pay a price to make sure our country is a better place. And, that's what I would say from episode one has been the one thing that I took away. But I can tell you that for Milo's life as a whole, there's been so many stories that I've heard over the years that continue to stand out. This idea of young leadership. He had to, at the age of 12, take over his family and support his mother and his sisters, move to the U.S. To work and live. This idea of leadership is another thing that stands out to me, because obviously leading the family business at a young age as well, in my case, is something that obviously resonates very strong with me. So there's so many stories and come out of Sir Milo's life that apply directly to my own.
But for me, I mean, perseverance obviously is a very, very important part of our grandfather's life. I think for me, actually knowing him, watching him, growing up under the shadow of both him and my grandmother, is this belief that nothing is impossible. Absolutely nothing. And, you know, he had a saying that always reminded us that with him and God, they're the majority, no matter how many people come up against him. In other words, for him, he did not like barriers, and you will see that demonstrated in his life, how he fought to break barriers in every facet of his life, whether it was in his business, whether it was in politics, you know, racial segregation. He did not like barriers, and his favorite song was "Don't Fence Me In," and I think he lived that.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, so you launched today, and how long is it generally each podcast?
Each podcast, Dwight, is about 45 minutes. It you know, changes depends on, you know, who we have on the podcast. But it's a good listen. When we aired the first episode, I can tell you nobody moved, literally, and I don't think it's because we held them at gunpoint. So just the reality that they were still engaged in the story. So I will tell you that, you know, it's 45 minutes, very well spent.
And this is going to be.
And the interesting thing is that our podcast actually is both audio and video. So you can either listen in or you can actually watch it, which makes it, you know, gives it that other dimension, which is interesting.
And it's going to be weekly?
Twice per month.
Twice a month. And is it going to be indefinite? You're going to be, or you have a, how are you thinking it's going to work at this point?
We believe that, you know, we're going to have 10 episodes in the first series. And once we've got that, that would be those 10 episodes, which will focus primarily on the development, the life, the times of Sir Milo. And obviously, we will be taking it on so that you will see greater integration, wider integration of different generations. So for now, we would like to think that this is something that would be going on for many years to come. And as it evolves, you will see all of the different facets that Franklyn spoke about at the top of our interview that we want to incorporate. But of course, once again, the foundation needs to be, we are accepting sponsorships and it needs to be fully funded so that we can carry this on into perpetuity, hopefully.
All right. And again, tell us where we can listen to it, where we can find it.
You can find it on Spotify. You don't have to sign up, but you can sign it as free as a guest of Spotify. You can find it as well on YouTube. And it will be on Apple Podcasts as well. Well, we understand it's been a little delay, but I'd imagine by the middle of the week, it'll be available on Apple Podcast platform as well. So those are the three platforms that you can find it on.
And as you get into, I guess, broadcasting, how does it feel? How does it feel to be one of us?
Loretta, you need to answer that.
I told Franklyn, I said, you know, I said, I felt like, you know, maybe this is what media is all about. But someone said to me, and I found this to be very interesting because I do respect this person's perspective. They said to me, Loretta, this is something that has cast you in a different light outside of politics. So I think that was the highest compliment in terms of the effectiveness of our communication.
Oh, that is beautiful.
What is the title of the podcast?
The Legacy
Butler
Podcast.
The Legacy Podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, both of you have wonderful voices, Franklyn and Loretta. You sound great, so I know it's going to be very entertaining to listen to you, and we look forward to it. And this is great stuff, and we hope it inspires many other people to do the same with their families. But thank you very much. What is next, other than the podcast? What's next for the Butler Legacy Foundation?
Dwight, I would say we are just really trying to focus on the podcast. Given it's the 50th year of independence, we just thought it was important for us really to leverage this opportunity to get as many of our kind of national heroes, those who lived, you know, during this period of independence of the country, to see if we can capture those stories in a way that makes it relevant. Our hope is that this continues to not just be for posterity. So if you listen to it, it's not just about a history lesson. It's really about how do we apply it today. And our hope is that we can get greater engagement with young people. That's really what our focus is, because we have firm views that if we don't necessarily know from whence we've come, we really don't know where we're going. And so we really want to make sure that everybody in our country, in schools around the Bahamas, and even globally, those who are impacted as families and business, understand that, here's an example of a family who is trying to preserve its legacy and to kind of go from strength to strength despite our challenges that we have. And this whole notion of perseverance is important, because everyone thinks life is perfect. The reality is we all have our challenges, and it's up to us to continue to persevere despite the challenges in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. Franklyn Butler, Loretta Butler Turner, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. And again, looking forward to the Legacy podcast, and keep up the great work there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dwight. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Bahamas.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break for news and be back with Morning Blend Business. Stay with us here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Let me be by myself in the evening breeze and listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in.
Just turn me loose, let me straddle my old saddle underneath the western sky. My use, let me wander over yonder till I see the mountain.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Monday, February 6th, 2023. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Pamela Musgrove. And this morning, if you were listening earlier, we started the discussion a bit, but we were talking of what the government says it is planning on doing, drafting legislation now at least, to set up a management company for downtown Nassau. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of this with Matt Aubrey with Organization for Responsible Governance, Bahamas. Matt, it's been a while. Good to have you with us.
How are you, and good morning to the Bahamas.
Doing well. Pam was trying to get me worked up a little bit earlier, but we'll
we're big supporters of
settle down.
We're
misplaced blame.
Big supporters of passion for social reform. And you want to make things better, you should feel powerfully about it.
Oh, okay. So we all can agree that downtown Nassau needs help desperately. But so does the entire island of New Providence and most communities in the Bahamas.
Sure.
And what the government announced last week is that they're drafting legislation for downtown Nassau, but it makes you wonder about the rest of these communities and management for all of our communities in the Bahamas. That's a challenge we have. But let's talk about this, what the government is saying, and we can get into the implications for other parts of the country in a bit. But this would be better than what we have now.
Well, I mean, I think everybody sees that. I mean, this is one of those circumstances where everybody on every sector of civil society and government all realize this is not what we want to get to. When you see folks coming off the cruise ships or coming from Atlantis and doing that walk between the two, everyone kind of cringes and hopes that maybe they're looking at the sun and and not looking at what else or God forbid that they run into some sort of circumstance that's gonna taint their
I
experience.
thought I was the
in the
only one that
Bahamas.
did that.
Every one of us. I've stopped and said, "Do you know where you're going?" It was those days when it's a little darker. I'll be like, "Are you sure this is what you want to be doing?" So we know this is the issue now. So then the determination is what kind of structure helps to fix it. And I've heard some of the dialogue before I was able to come on, and Dwight, I love to agree with you, but the reality is it exists somewhere in the middle. So it's also important to look at what is it that this will come forward. So what you see is that in many different places you have either a business improvement district or a special improvement forward, and what those are interchangeable terms. But many of the cities we look at that have been successful have instances like this. So I heard you talking about New York. New York has tons of business improvement districts. Whether you've been to Times Square, Grand Central, downtown, and each of those has actually done amazing revitalization. When you went to Times Square back in the 70s and you had to watch your wallet versus now when you can walk around and there's Disney and all the kinds of things that are there. That came specifically through this type of a district. And the district fundamentally is a public-private partnership. It's looking to what are the mandates and the requirements of government that are then outsourced and determined to be overseen and run under particular conditions by a private sector entity. And in some instances, it's not even a private sector. It could be a not-for-profit entity. And so it is just that it is not run under the same auspices of government. Lots of specifics as to what oversees that, whether it be the governance structure, how it's financed, if the entity has the capacity to drive its own borrowing or setting bonds or things like that, or what goes on within that district also can drive revenue or have certain levels of expectation for expenditure. So a company that may, or a group that may come in and manage a certain area may also have commitments to raise funds or commit funds to particular items. And very often in those agreements, there are conditions and times and benchmarks. So a lot of the business improvement districts that we see that are successful, they have check-in points where the charter or the function is managed and overseen in blocks of like 3 to 10 years. So you have certain benchmarks you're supposed to achieve, and then if it's not achieved, then there are either financial penalties or there's a termination or a review of who else can do that process.
And examples of where we have that now will be the airport, NAD,
right,
APD, and Nassau Cruise Port.
So those are example public-private
partnerships.
Right.
And it's governed by the legislation that they crafted together, they came together and crafted together, that governs how the port or the airport or Nassau APD would be managed.
Right. And I think we could also make the argument that the selection and the who has been running those things is key to their success, because we also have on the other side, and I'm not going to go into the examples, but examples of public-private partnerships that haven't worked, right? And so the stack is not only does the legislation support it, but what are the processes that drive and maintain it? What's different a little bit between those examples is when you talk about a business improvement district or a special improvement district, now you're talking about where people live, and so the instance of where they live creates another dynamic. The dynamic that we also, I think, are talking, so a few key things. So business improvement districts can be very successful, not successful. One of the biggest conditions is how is the management structured? The fundamental research tells you, though, that it's best organized to meet the needs of the particular objectives. So that's very simply, but saying, like, if we're saying that, okay, the business improvement district is about how do we monetize better tourists, and that's what it is, then that is going to be primarily what the focus is. If the focus is we need to change the architectural look and feel of what downtown is, or make it a local business hub, then that's the objective. If you say it needs to be a place where we have greater residential experience and issues that we see like homelessness and other types of things that are there, then that becomes the address. If you put too many of those things into an agreement or an understanding, what typically happens is they don't advance all of them, and in many ways you don't have a successful circumstance.
Sounds like central government.
Right. So there needs to be, again, a very specific understanding of why you would be doing it, and what say that this is the answer to change XYZ is too simple. To your point, Dwight, you said that why fix this area when we're not doing the rest of, and research has also shown that when a business improvement district comes in, it absolutely moves the problem elsewhere. So if there are issues that we're not doing there that are specifically contained to downtown Nassau, you tend to solve those by moving either human issues out or whatever. And you could also think that would be the revitalization of that type of a community could be the push to box out those folks who have made that community their home for generations, because gentrification and all of the things that are put forward that are driving a particular profit end goal don't preserve that level of culture or that level of community. So as we advance anything in that space, it's also important that we identify the objectives. So to tie it all back to what we were talking about, the truth is local government or business, or I'll talk about what a charter city might look like as well. These things all require a few fundamental things to be successful. And those are the things we need to work on in the Bahamas across the board. They require transparency, they require accountability, and they require input, meaningful input from the stakeholders in the formative stages. Not we've made a plan and here it is, and by the way, we're about to do what we're going to do, and by the way, what do you think about it? But what is this we're going to achieve? So we know our good friend Ed Fields has been working with the Downtown Nassau Partnership, and he has talked and engaged with the business folks around what needs to be and what should be part of a solution. You remember a couple of years ago, there was movement on developing a whole walkway that would go the whole length of downtown Nassau and extend forward, that was going to go forward. And it was the private sector folks that were saying, hey, we will invest in this because it will benefit us and move forward. So the kind of planning that we see that happens right now, where government gets an idea, brings it into cabinet, talks about it, brings it to the House of Assembly, and it's already kind of a done deal, wouldn't necessarily work. If we were looking at a business, you would be giving up some level of that decision making, but you also would hopefully could build in opportunities for regular consultation. So places where, as key decisions are being made, you're engaging those folks that it's going to affect the most. And where we always seem to miss the boat is engaging citizens. So whether you have local government or whether you have this type of a construct, engaging citizens is one of the keys to make either of them successful. And this is something in all of our, the Organization Responsible Governance has talked about this and promoted a position on public consultation because of the benefits like this. If you start a pattern where we're talking more to folks in our communities, talking more to the private sector folks, talking in a regular way about here's what our ideas are, which way would we go, better outcomes can happen. So adopting that and working on it as a structural change in our governance system allows either of these avenues to potentially.
So won't there be a challenge for any model that is chosen for downtown, given the ownership structure, given that these are private ownership of the properties and in some cases don't even live in the Bahamas? Like how do you come with the optimal model?
Right.
Taking that into consideration.
So legislation and this is we see this actually in, let's say for example, in some places what's been very successful have been like charter schools, right? Charter schools if you've ever gone to seen a charter school in the States or gone into the UK and it's the free schools or other things, which these are exactly this kind of an entity. They exist with private, they meet government mandates. Private groups come in, they have particular focus and requirements and benchmarks. This is called the charter, and they have to achieve these in a timeline and a method. You still have to meet, standardized requirements. So in a business improvement district, building standards and civic codes and things like that. But allowing them to exist doesn't necessarily determine the exact model that needs to be that. So the legislation should actually recognize and be set up so that there could be a few different models, because trying to determine that the exact model of what would work there now, there's a lot of unknown characters, unknown elements rather, that have to be established. When you think about the kind of work that needs to be done, a lot of it is infrastructure. The flooding, the business, the buildings, the clearing. What does that look like? What are common use principles? What is going to come from that? Even to the degree of that use of a boardwalk, or what the responsibility is to the harbor when you have that. So when we're walking between those places, we're not hit that waft of stuff that comes down from the that all of us are sitting in traffic and the later day have to deal with. So with that, then you also look at, where do we want to? Public-private partnerships research shows that what government's really good at doing is building a thing, not maintaining a thing. Mm-hmm. So looking at structures where we do build in partnerships, that it's about maybe government having more of a responsibility on the front end, and then the private sector having a say-so on maintaining and bringing it forward and giving them latitude for decision-making. Research would say that's a more effective model. Yeah. When we talk about the size of, you had some debates on cities, charter cities. These are private cities that we're seeing all over. Singapore, probably one of the most famous of them, but they exist in a lot of different places, in Australia, in different places. And folks might be more familiar with one that's a lot closer home, which is Celebration. So Celebration in Florida is that city that Disney basically built. Mm-hmm. The state of Florida said, hey, we'll give you the latitude. And if you ever go to Celebration, Florida, you can see and experience that it is something different than the other space in it. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful when you first got it, and mold. And as the corporation or that entity has changed its focus, the attentiveness of what the needs of individuals there are and who those folks are has suffered. Mm-hmm. So to that point, if you do think about bringing in a business to run something that deals with human lives, we have to look at what's been our experience historically in taking care of those human lives already. And that may cause the pause. Like that may cause what does this look like, and what do we need to put in place so that a construction of a public-private partnership in this instance doesn't oversee or marginalize folks who historically have already been marginalized.
Right. All right, so we're getting a lot of messages, and I think people are talking about central government, right? Mm-hmm. And not having confidence in us running things based on the central government's track record, and that is understandable completely. What I'm talking about is something different. Local government accountability. Again, a lot of people never read the document before that was prepared by the local government for New Providence committee. Call for recalls, a system of removing non-performing mayors or council members, which is not quite what we have now with central government. Right. But let's talk about it. The differences between, because I did mention it, that I would even feel more comfortable if the local government authority were to hire a company to manage an area, as opposed to the central government doing it. But the differences between, and I think you mentioned the people factor, if people are going to be living there, what happens if it's a local government authority voted for by individuals running a city versus a company that's appointed?
So, I mean, and that was a good bit of work we all did on that committee. And
you were on the committee.
I was on the committee too. Yes, yeah. Dwight hedged his bet. He brought in a ringer. But what you also remember is we went all over to look at what does this look like. What was interesting is we went in places like New York, and we talked to folks in Australia, and what they all kind of remarked was, well, you're talking about a very sophisticated circumstance, folks, right? I mean, our 300,000 people here in the Bahamas doesn't even match up to what Times Square or the Grand Central business districts are dealing with. I mean, the amount of numbers. So they kind of advised us, come up with something that just makes sense. And if you could do that, it does have a potential of moving forward. But they also talked about the essential component that what local government does bring, which is a lot of the other, like you could have a business maybe, let's say theoretically, come in and run not downtown Nassau. But if it's so drastically different than everything else, it doesn't really work. So you kind of have to have some logic and sense about why this and set this thing up to be successful. So in local government, and Tenille Burroughs and Rise Bahamas have been doing a phenomenal job of pushing out this concept of imagine local government and sharing the document that was put together by the committee. So go to risebahamas.org and check that out so you can what that would look like. But it set up a model where you start to move away from the centralized focus of governance around things that make sense. The things that we struggle with in our communities, the potholes, the house that seems to accumulate all the appliances, that somebody left behind, the concept of kind of being attentive and managing your parks and your public spaces, and what that helps us to do is it builds a level of ownership and investment, not only from the community but also from the centralized government to something on a more functional level. Right now, you have problems with your that pothole that's been sitting there for months. You've got to send it to a centralized place. They've got to make determination as to what are priorities. It's not a very straightforward way of addressing it. So when we look at local government in that way, making sure that we set forward those same principles of accountability, transparency, and a more meaningful, timely dialogue with those folks who are most affected, it holds as still the formula we working in those areas will make sure that we have a better centralized government. It would make sure that if we were going to implement more functional or more expansive local government in our family islands where we already have local government entities, and then looking at how we better manage our capital island here at New Providence. We put forward a model of 5 different districts, and those districts all had local committees and that came together, councils rather, and those councils then were kind of executed by a particular mayor, and the people on the councils and the mayor were all elected, and it was a space where we looked at how do you set expectation that you kind of move away from partisan politics. It's really about community development and focusing on that. That principles and those dynamics would still need to be in place, I think, for a public-private partnership to be able to work. If you apply it and then you put language in that it is required, it would be almost beyond what everybody else in Nassau is doing. So, in New Providence rather, is doing. So consistency means that once you've built something in all places, it kind of continues to happen. If you don't do it, it becomes a nice bit of language in the legislation, but it probably won't manifest. Mm-hmm. So in the community, whether through our freedom schools or our active citizenship work or our advocacy on particular laws, is all about how do we change that dynamic. Because if something comes in that does not work, as we've seen, the ability to remove it without us having a stronger citizenry to talk about it, to monitor it, to feedback, hey, is this serving us, not serving us, is not really a very realistic element. Yeah. It then becomes, again, to administration A or administration B. So if government puts it in, and the other next administration comes in, doesn't like it, it could either take it out or not be fully served in that way. So without the backing or the input of our citizenry, you're not really hedging your bet that could be successful.
But Pam wants to say something, but I know. Yes. But just think about it. Just the CEO or executive director of this company, I mean, do they really have to answer any of your concerns? I mean, they are hired by the government to do something.
But legislation can force them to. Let's go back to your example about your counterpart saying from New York that you need a system that works for what we have. Mm-hmm. And let me go back to the examples that I gave, right, with NAD. Now, NAD is a government-controlled company where they hired a management company. Mm-hmm. So government still has control over that. Then you have APD. It's a public-private partnership, but government has no control over management
Right.
and no control over board selection. They are given as a token position 1 or 2 board selection, but they have no control. And we see how that is being managed. And then we have the public-private partnership is government and a local company. And then we have the Nassau Cruise Port, where, again, it's a public-private partnership where government, again, has no control over the board, no control over management selection, and they have that agreement is with a private company.
Right.
So we have 3 different models.
There's
That
a
we
big
can
difference, though,
use.
Pam.
No,
Those
Gabe-
are all singular entities. We're talking about a street or a couple of streets with many different businesses and different types of people.
I imagine
doing
it's going to be
things.
different, but we're
It's-
talking about management of it, right? And I go back to the point about getting something that works for us because it's in New York, a big city, not necessarily work exactly the
Right.
same, but we have to find the solution that works better for us. And we have examples, and maybe for downtown where you have commercial property, you have to tweak it a bit, but coming to that solution where government has no control over the board selection or management selection.
So the selection of leadership, which is a key component, is important. Making sure that there's clear objectives that they're working against, a timeline and a system of oversight that ensures that, and then ultimately a system of recourse if it's not adhered to become critical. And so we've had the success of NAD, we've had the success of APD, and interestingly, APD looks and feels a little bit like the globe, like the port. I mean the cruise port. But when things don't go right, we have to draw from that example. And can we think of examples where things have been set up and then trying to have to manage it after the fact or change those dynamics? We don't do well necessarily here with that process because it then becomes a singular relationship between the government and that PPP. Having checks and balances of more invested stakeholders, ensuring their inputs, ensuring that people would understand what the objectives are and have a capacity to monitor them, help to establish that if we were going to move forward in this space, it's going to be successful. That same thing applies to local government. So my ultimate statement is that these 2 things are not either or. They actually could be very complementary. And you could see a pathway that if this public-private partnership or this management structure was built, it could, if done right, be something that then migrates and supports doing similar efforts in other spaces. At the same time, if you actually were able to move forward with local government, it would also set a scenario where this type of an investment would be much more likely to be successful. So there is a complementary potential relationship. But fundamentally beneath both, if government is moving forward and this is not something that the community and the private sector have fully understood and weighed in on, then you incur a particular risk that it might not. And so that's the process that I think is important. I mean, needing to make sure that there is extensive dialogue and consultation around what this is, what are the objectives, and what does it look like. We saw in places like Madison Square in New York, right? So we had successful Times Square, successful downtown, and Madison Square started a partnership, and it didn't go well. It became a way for a very small amount of folks to hold and control and make all decision making and exclude those, particularly those that were lower on the socioeconomic spat. Have we been able to successfully engage folks, let's say, in a concurrent neighborhood over the hill? Have we been successful at empowering those folks to be able to make change? Not necessarily. I mean, still pumping water from the local, the local community well. Still, on a day like today, they're dealing with flooding and issues that are prohibiting their days from starting. Have we businesses to launch in those communities? We had an economic program to be able to foster economic development. How much of that happened? Trying to get on the cutting edge Harley Davidson when we're still only just learning how to drive a scooter doesn't necessarily help us. So thinking about how we get more folks involved and more folks involved in this dialogue because they are going to be the ones impacted is also crucial. So whether it's been legislation or whether through process, that's an area I think we would want to stress. We would want to make sure that those folks that live in those communities or adjacent to those communities are understanding what is the potential that comes with it, goods and bads. And that government, before moving forward with legislation, has that information. It advises that if there was going to be a management company put in place, that it would be with particular considerations, benchmarks, and milestones that are reflective of not just the needs of profit or tourism, but that would also reflect needs.
I think you said it. I mean, this is going to be the voice of a few if we go with a company, as opposed to people from the area who are elected to serve in that area. You're going to be shutting out a lot of people.
So what recommendations would you make for government to involve all stakeholders as a part of this process?
Right. So this is those who've heard us talk on Morning Blade and other spaces would hear this somewhat regularly. But we advocate that there's an adoption of a more standardized consultation process. That something that goes from idea, goes forward and engages the technocrats in the private sector, the people that know this thing best here and away, put that forward into a more shaped idea, and then bring that forward for public discourse. Could be town halls, but it also could be electronic. We have a lot of opportunities to share information, break things down in ways that make people understand what are the potential benefits and also what are the potential risks. If that is gathered before it goes into cabinet, they're making a decision with much more information. This is done in a lot of Commonwealth countries. We're not, there's nothing we need to invent. There's the model we put forward as orgbahamas.com speaks very well to how we can be more deliberative in our process. So creating that, we also have to teach our citizens to be more attentive. All of us can go right to social media and explain, why we don't like something, but how many of us have taken the time to go to a particular space or read through legislation or plans so that we really understand, how would this relate to me? Mm-hmm. Does this create a space where maybe my small business can now become a medium-sized business or a big business? Does this become a space where my business that has existed in small ways is going to get boxed out because it will only be a select few that will benefit from it? We need to get people to understand that. So we've also created a free online resource called the Policy Review Center, where we put all the laws that come forward from the House, and we put them up there, and we share information around how to, what that information is, rather, so you can look at it yourselves, and actually we have a space where you can write your own thoughts, and we share that information with government so that there's a way for your ideas to get forward to those that are making decisions. Promoting those types of opportunities, which are, work, is what we have to push forward. Using technology to kind of bind us in ways that are more accessible and inclusive is going to help us develop policies and programs that will actually stick, stay, and benefit the widest group of folks. Mm. So those are two recommendations we would have related to this. I think when you talk about the how people get on board a plan, we're in a bit of a struggle for the last number of administrations, where Administration A changes to Administration B, which changes back to Administration A, because when people come to the electorate, they're angry that these solutions didn't get fixed. Mm-hmm. The same problems we're seeing are the same problems that keep coming up. Yeah. Most of them ultimately are not 5-year solutions. And so how do we buy in that what we're changing now, whether it be this new business model or NIB, or how we address our environment or our crime, is tied into something that we can believe in, that's not just, your party A or your party B, but is a national it's in the National Development Plan. So when you look at the National Development Plan, there are a lot of, it's a draft, folks can go 40, and what you can see is that there are a lot of these things that are tied in. So there's work to be recommended in the energy space. There's work to be recommended in land use and in the construction and code piece, which would apply very much to what we need to do downtown. There's actually a sustainable Nassau plan that was put together that has a lot of the business development components in it, and I think in that it actually speaks to bringing in a management company either in a business improvement model. I don't think it's specifically like a city charter where it's looks like Freeport. It would be more specific to the types of surface changes, not necessarily the structural changes of the area. But it all ties in a way that you can then start to see, how do these pieces make sense? Mm-hmm. So fixing Nassau and fixing our downtown Nassau experience is critical for tourism, it's critical for social issues, it's critical for our environment, it's critical for our capacity to deal with issues like climate change. All of these things are tied in. Our cultural potential, right? All of the things, the green economy, the blue economy, the orange economy, are all tied potential there. So in making a change, we need to understand how all of those elements would be considered. Doesn't box out local government from being an entity that could be very successful, but it also doesn't preclude that if a business agreement was put forward with particular stipulations that say, hey, this is how we ensure that Bahamian performers and artists will be included, and here's the voice they will be given, and here's the space that will look at. And we've talked to that community. We've talked to Pam Burnside, and we've talked to the folks that are out there that are doing this kind of work to understand how do we push this in a sustainable way. Then maybe it becomes a little bit more accessible, but it also potentially looks more sustainable in the long term. It's not at the whim of Administration A changes, then all of a sudden funding and commitment goes away.
Right. Yeah. Let's take this call really quickly, and then we have to take a break. Caller, you're on the air. Are you still there? Hi. Good morning.
Well, the gentleman who's on, he has some good plans. But we've been on this road now going on 25 years, the Bahamas Nassau development plan for downtown. For the last 7 years, I've been telling all governments, there's a plan that can work downtown Nassau that will benefit the locals as well as the tourists. Okay? So, with all due respect, I would like for you to take a look at Fremont Street light and show videos for me, please. And that right there, you can the government can interact with the Viva Canopy Company. There's not a lot of money they got to spend in order for this project to come to fruition. Okay, and it will be something that the local entertainers, the local restaurants, local everything, even Airbnb done, all that can work within downtown. Just like a former prime minister said that downtown was supposed to be a no-traffic zone. That would be the perfect idea for downtown. Thank you, man. Take a look at the Fremont Street lighting show videos, please. Thank you.
But what power does government have in managing downtown, given private property ownership? Like, what power do they have
as much as
to
they want.
influence any type of change downtown? And do you think that is what is stopping them from really making drastic change with downtown?
That they don't have power, you're saying? That they don't have...
but those properties downtown, Main Bay Street, they're privately owned. What can they do?
I think that there's a tremendous amount of influence that can be had, but I think your point is that it has to be done in conjunction with folks. Mm-hmm. But what we've seen in other instances is, and I would say, playing both sides. In local government, if local government is given a level of responsibility and input, they can put and specifically put forward clauses to say advancement or improvement needs to happen, and if not, here's either penalties that are accrued in terms of particular taxes, and it can be a secondary level of tax. It's not real property tax is still going to be maintained by the central government, but that there are ways to work. If you're working against the objectives of this particular community's plans, then there are remunerations. Well, similarly, you could do that also for a business improvement district. Here's what the outcomes are, and here's what the timelines are, and levels of compliance require X, Y, Z. At the same time, it gives potential opportunity for latitude to be gained, and that's good and bad. There are concessions that can be put into a business improvement district to foster, to encourage folks who are in that to be able to adhere with whatever the revitalization plans might be, or infrastructure projects or things like that. And it does, if that's not being addressed in other spaces, then again, it comes up to that, what about us? So one of the things when we did talk about local government was talking about and selecting the zones that we looked at, each particular economic area, so that they could utilize and create the best model for themselves. Yeah.
So can the central government do that now in terms of taxes for those persons whose property is not well kept? Can they do that right now?
I don't see that there is a legal space for them to be able to do it now, but I think they have the capacity, if they wanted to move forward and reclaim properties. I'm thinking about spaces and places in like out east. We saw that big old house that was sitting there,
Yep.
just all trash and dogs and folks who didn't have homes were just and it really drastically affected the impact of the community.
Pam, let's not pretend.
But can
Right.
they
If
do
they
that
have
in
the will,
downtown
they can
now?
do it. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
And they may face lawsuits. They
Right.
may, but they can do whatever they want. They've taken many other people's homes and properties.
But the difference, I think, and what Pam, I think you're kind of alluding to too, is are they likely to?
Right.
So without a specific plan that is managed either privately or managed more by the people that are not driven by a political, it becomes more tenable that those types of pushes can happen. Whereas in the current space, maybe the level of influence of who owns those buildings, and the historic ties or political things keep it and make it not very much a realistic solution. That again shouldn't necessarily be in the place of why we leave it as is. We see the benefit that can happen through the revitalization of these communities. We see what we see from our what's happening with global ports, as I understand, is they're putting so much into that port experience that because it's not anywhere else, that it potentially limits our capacity to get people out into our communities. Mm-hmm. So while that's happening, it's also incumbent upon us to be thinking about how do we foster and encourage folks who come through that to come out and say, here's what we want to see. Here's the kinds of performing arts, and here's the kind of cultural and cuisine and those types of experiences that are there. How we do that with the inclusion of local folks is going to be key. And I do want to point back just to the caller. You're right. There have been a lot of defined plans, and a lot of them have great merit. We need to be considered. So Sustainable Nassau is a very well put together document, also overseen by Dr. Nicola Virgil-Roll, who is one of our brightest and best. She was the lead on our national development plan. When these things start to integrate, when one is reflective of another, you have a greater confidence in it. So the national development plan includes a lot of other prior plans involved in it. So if we push for that, and that's something that people can call for.
Absolutely.
We can speak to those people that you have chosen to represent you and say that national development plan, it needs to come forward. It's in this government's blueprint for change. It was spoken about by the Prime Minister last year, who said that around this time we would start to see it come forward. This is something that if we have a clear plan and it includes this, then the debate of whether we should or we shouldn't is not as vibrant, because we see, I see how this makes sense. I see we move on this now. This makes sure we move forward our tourism product and make sure we move forward our economic development locally. It makes sure that people who are in that community can tap into cultural experiences and foster their own self-betterment. Also ensures that people that are in that community that don't have resources can benefit.
Yeah, local government for New Providence is also in the blueprint for change. But,
that's true.
But alas, caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, a pleasant good morning, Dwight and Pam, and good morning to Mr. Morrow.
Matt Aubrey.
Mr. Aubrey, sorry.
Good morning, sir.
Several weeks, I don't know whether it was weeks or months ago, Candia did an article on the National Development Plan and the PLP views on it. And one of the person that I think she interviewed or she spoke with was Mr. Felix Stubbs, who was, I think,
he was the chair of the committee.
Of the plan. And I didn't read the article in its entirety, but there's something that he said was so profound. He said that nothing will change because political parties, they come with their agenda, they come with their plan. And so until it's the people's plan, until the plan comes from the bottom up, nothing will change, because these parties, they have a 5-year plan, their 5-year vision, and they want to accomplish so much within that 5-year plan. And so it's just one cycle right after the other. It's our agenda, our plan. But it has to come from the people plan. And that is what the National Development Plan had proposed to do, to get the people involved. This is how we want our country to be run. But political parties, they just have a tunnel vision, seems to be, and it's only a 5-year span that they are looking at. And until that change, we will be just on this treadmill, just going around and around in circles. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.
No, and I agree.
thank
I
you.
think we're having this intellectual conversation on top of the mountain, and it's so out of touch from what's going on in real life in the valley, right? I talked about why can't we do something about downtown right now? I mean, real life. Why can't we do something? And I imagine there are a lot of things, it's influence, whether it's the government doesn't have the will, whether they don't have the legislative capability. There are a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. But, you know, we've been talking about these things over and over. Nobody's coming forward to tell us why, what can be done with local government that cannot be done right now. Until we get there, Dwight. Until we get
Matt, I don't know how you want to answer, but Joe
right
Biden,
now.
Joe Biden doesn't run New York City or even Washington D.C. Right? You're expecting something from people who aren't supposed to be doing.
But the
who aren't supposed to be
people
responsible
pick
for
the
this.
people elected in the United States, their president. We select members of parliament. I have no problems with local government, Dwight. I am just saying the
Rishi
political
Sunak doesn't
will.
run London.
The political
or Birmingham,
will.
right? This is not the way it's supposed to be.
The political will is not there to implement it. And so until we
Because the
get there,
public
what are we going to
hasn't
do
been
in the
demanding it.
meantime?
But I would
what
say
are we
that
going to do in the meantime?
the concern related to political will driving, not necessarily public will driving, is that decisions that could be made in this instance, if they're not informed by the public, if they're not engaged by the public, set us up in a way that decisions might be made in very short-term circumstances that don't manifest the way we want it long-term. So when you say what's preventing us, the only thing we don't have the public will pushing forward to say we need to be able to drive this. And not to say that doesn't mean people don't want it, but people are not feeling that they have the capacity or the engagement or the opportunity to express that or push it. People in record numbers here, right? I mean, when people around the world look at the Bahamas and say, wow, you're getting people out in the low 90s, upper 80s. That doesn't happen in a lot of jurisdictions. People take that ability to express their opinion on that day very, very, very importantly. However, we already saw in the last election, some of it may have been, some of it was definitely COVID, but a large portion of folks did not come forward. We see in the world right now, and even in the region, that trust in government has declined drastically. The IDB said that the Caribbean, Latin American, or the Caribbean, Latin America, reached in the world in its trust of government, and we're working now with the IDB to do a specifically local iteration of what that study is so we can better understand it. But it tells us that the voice of our people don't achieve its potential. And the onus is not on people in that instance. There is a responsibility that folks have, but our tagline at Org is get informed and get involved. And I feel like we need to make opportunities for people to understand these issues, as you say, at a very day-to-day circumstance, and create their capacity and their skill to be able to get involved and ensure that there are places and spaces where they can get involved. We need to set those constructs up. Because if you're sitting at home listening to this dialogue and you're wondering, am I going to still have a job next week? How do I make sure that I can, I'm flooded out. I can't get out of my yard. I mean, I've heard, we have people we've talked to who, the floods hit, and all of a sudden somebody's sewer backs up and I can't go out for my car. So I can't get to work today because this thing hasn't been fixed. What do I do about it?
So down there,
right. But that process of being able to have some control in your life, some ability to say so, it is not a big mystery. We put these folks in place. The votes that put folks in our MP seats are like, in the thousands. Not tens of thousands. They are, people can have a capacity to speak and express themselves. So we need systems in place. So we go out in the community. We did a lot of the Family Islands, and we're doing right now in Nassau programs, our Active Citizens program, talking to people about how to get involved and do small things in your local community that start to build your comfort and strength to do larger things. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But if we commit ourselves that we need long-term change, then we have to each take some level. We also have to call for the changes to make that ideas and those thoughts have a space here.
Absolutely.
Speaking directly to the person you've represented is critical. And if enough folks do that, we start to move the needle a bit. It's again, before you make a move that's
Yeah,
going
we
to
must
change and set ourselves fixed that this is what it's going to be, if you don't fully understand what the people who are going to be affected by, then you're likely setting up a plan that may not be as successful as you want, and it may exclude some folks who have a potential solution and voice.
Matt Aubrey, thank you so much. Good look at it from many different angles there. Appreciate that. But with Org Bahamas, keep up the good work that you all are doing.
Thank you
Appreciate
so much.
this morning.
Thank you.
Pam, you and I have to talk some more off air. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
this
Dwight, have a
morning.
blessed week, Bahamas.
Be sure, folks, to pick up today's Guardian Business section for the latest business news in the country. Guardian Business in today's Nassau Guardian and Morning Blend Business brought to you in part by CFAL. Tune in tonight for CFAL Talks for a discussion on the financial literacy in today's society. That's tonight at 6:30 p.m. right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. That's it for us today. Hopefully tomorrow we won't have the chaos we had earlier, but we'll be back tomorrow morning with more business right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan, have a great day. On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.
Oh yeah, and we got a doggone beat now. We're gonna take care of business too. Listen to the drummer playing his beat. Listen to the bass man, go get that same groove. Listen to the guitar, give that soul some too.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.